Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought it
No, I didn't. I just had an opportunity. And I wanted to my
That's on that. He deserves it.
I want to make sure I don't make it.
How you doing? How's everything? Again? How are you?
I'd like to call this meeting of the Straford Board of Education to order. It is Tuesday, September 26th. The time is 7:22. I'm Andrea Corcoran, Board Chair. We do have a quorum. And before we get started today, I'd like to make a motion to take the agenda out of order to move public forum before our presentations so that our young speakers can get home and go to bed at a reasonable hour.
You need a motion? So moved.
So moved by Ms. Cuthie, second by Ms. Bedell. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstain? Motion passes 7-0. We will now get back to business. And Ms. Wiltsey, will you lead us in the invocation of pledge, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Would everyone please stand?
We beseech you, Almighty God, to bless this meeting of the Board of Education. So guide and rule over our hearts and minds that all our deliberations and decisions may be in accordance with your will and lead to the advancement and welfare of the community of Straford for whom we serve. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Great. We're going to take our student rep report and then we will have our public forum. And so I will pass it off to Dr. Sunday to introduce our brand new student reps.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. It's always exciting to be back in full swing of things, and welcome back our student voice to the board meetings. This year we have two outstanding representatives from Bunnell High School and Straford High School. So at this time I will call on Bunnell Administrator Mr. Frank Tato to introduce our first student representative to the Straford Board of Education.
Thank you, Dr. Sunday, members of the Board of Education, members of the Stratford community. At this time, I would invite our senior, Baram Alfred, to join me. Baram Alfred is a senior at Bunnell High School and is currently ranked in the top first percentile of the class of 2024. Academically, Baram has challenged himself by taking a most rigorous course of study, including 10 advanced placement courses and 19 honors level courses. His cumulative weighted GPA is an impressive 4.31. Baram is a member of the National Honor Society, as well as the Math, Spanish, and English Honor Societies. Baram has received many awards for high academic achievement, including All Southwest Conference Academic Awards in track and field, swimming, and boys cross country, as well as excellence in history, science, Spanish, English, business, and music arts. Perhaps the most prestigious academic award Baram received thus far at Bunnell was the Dartmouth Book Award. Baram has had to overcome many obstacles during his 17 years of life. In 2016, when he was just 10 years old, he and his family sought refuge from the civil war in Syria and immigrated to the United States. At that time, Baram only spoke Arabic. He credits the English Language Learner Program at Second Hill Lane for helping him become fluent in English. As a result of his life experiences, Baram takes nothing for granted and strives to be the best version of himself every day he steps foot into Bunnell High School. In addition to academics, Barham is involved in a wide variety of sports and extracurricular activities. He is a member of the track, swimming, and volleyball teams. He's an active member of the Interact Club, the Inspire Education Club, the Men of Color Leadership Group, Ushers Guild, Stage Crew, Link Crew, and Bulldogs in Training. He was also recently appointed as a spokesperson for Bulldog Underground, Bunnell's student-led podcast, which is currently in its second season. What makes Barham such an outstanding role model at Bunnell is not only his involvement in activities, but the leadership role he assumes within those organizations. He is a student government treasurer, trumpet section leader, band vice president, and manager for both the girls outdoor track team and boys cross-country team. Barham was published in the Young Writers Survival Saga Missions Contamination, Tales from Connecticut book. He has an ambition of becoming a politician and gets involved during election season working at the polls as a voting ballot clerk. Barham's most recent accomplishment was being nominated for the Barnum Festival Prince. Through his work, Barham has already completed 78 hours of community service, including his favorite one of visiting local convalescent homes. Barham's leadership qualities earned him both the CABE Leadership Award and the Hobie Leadership Award in his junior year. Barham has exceeded the expectations of our portrait of a graduate and who we believe a student should be upon the successful completion of public education in the Straford Public Schools. It is my pleasure to recognize Barham as the 2023-2024 Board of Education Student Representative for Bunnell High School.
Go for it.
Hello everyone and good evening. My name is Barham Alfrey and it is my pleasure to be addressing you tonight this evening as a 2023-24 student representative to the Board of Education. I am pleased to report that the 2023-24 school year at Bunnell is off to a great start. Already this year, Bunnell has been recognized at both local, state, and national level. Earlier this month, we were recognized by the U.S. News and World Report as one of the nation's best high schools for the third year in a row. We attribute this recognition to the hard work and dedication of our teachers, students, particularly the growth we saw in the SAT, as well as the increase in the number of students who took AP and dual enrollment classes. BHS was commended for achieving its FAFSA challenge growth goal for the 2022-23 school year. Last year, we started the year with a FAFSA completion goal of 61.3%. And by the end of the year, we exceeded that goal and attained a FAFSA completion rate of 75.1%. We would like to congratulate Bunnell High School Counselor Ms. Alice Borgerson and all of the counseling staff for seeing this initiative to fruition. The next FAFSA challenge is already underway and we look forward to increasing our completion rate this school year. We are proud to announce that the following students recognized by the college: Alyssa Sanchez, Eva Ortiz, and Jessica Santos are recipients of the National Hispanic Recognition Award. And Bololombe Iboki, Ayana West, and Draquan Sok, and Wisdom Nuwazi are recipients of the National African American Recognition Award. Congratulations to these hardworking seniors on this prestigious achievement. Next, we have the NWEA testing. Bunnell students over the last 2 weeks took the NWEA MAP testing assessments in reading, language, science, and math in order to provide schools, students, and families with information relevant to individual and class-wide progress. The NWEA MAP test replaces the STAR testing that was taken previously in the high school. These reports will help students to better understand their learning and progress while also providing educators with information that will help them to better serve the students and families at Bunnell High School. NWEA MAP testing will now provide a way for Straford Public Schools to monitor and support student progress from elementary all the way through high school. Next, we have guidance. The guidance department registered 66 new students this school year. We have welcomed them all and are thrilled to have them become Bunnell Bulldogs. On October 5th, the department will check in with all new students to make sure they are acclimating to their new environment and answer any outstanding questions they may have. Additionally, the school counselors have been conducting seniors post-secondary workshops with the senior class. We will be hosting a virtual session for parents on October 5th. The college application process has begun, and we already are working with seniors on meeting application deadlines. College representatives are coming to Bunnell High School to meet with students about their school admission requirements and programs. Juniors and seniors are meeting with college representatives and are able to sign in through Navion's accounts. Early college experience enrollment is in full swing for Southern, Housatonic, and Yukon dual enrollment classes. Lastly, the PSATs will be held on Thursday, October 12th. Next, we have the band, the Bunnell and Straford High Marching Band. The Bunnell Straford District Marching Band clinched first place in the new Milford competition last week. Our band beat Portchester Marching Band by 1.1 points and Cheshire by almost 3 points, which is the first time in Mr. Miller's 38 years at Bunnell teaching, which is amazing. If you haven't seen our Katy Perry theme show, please come check them out, our home football games, or our cavalcade of bands on October 21st, which will be held at Bunnell High School, where we will play host to 9 other schools from Connecticut. In addition, we will be performing at MetLife Stadium on October 7th. Next, we have Stage, our theater. Stage is so excited that the fall play will be Clues, High School Edition. Auditions will start next week, and we are excited that the theater program has grown a lot this year. Thank you for the support last year, and we are looking forward to another successful performance season. The show dates are December 8th and 9th at 7 p.m. and December 9th and 10th at 2 p.m. Next, we have choir. The concert choir and select choir have grown this year, and we look forward to getting more students involved. The choir is excited to announce that we have been invited again to go and perform at Radio City Music Hall for the Christmas Spectacular. We will be having many fundraisers throughout the year to make sure students have the opportunity to attend such events. These fundraisers will also support the purchase of uniforms for the growing choir. Again, thank you very much for your continued support. Next, we have the African American, Black, Puerto Rican, Latino Study Course. The Black and Latino Study Course will have the opportunity to take part in a field trip to tour the 128-foot recreation Amistad ship, which is currently docked at the Captain's Cove in Bridgeport, Connecticut, on September 27th. Everyone on board will learn about the Amistad story from its beginning in West Africa to the Middle Passage, rappelling on the ship, and the court trials in the United States. Next, we will talk about our student government. Student government is hard at work already. They have sponsored the school's first Spirit Week, and officers have diligently secured a date for the fall homecoming dance, scheduled to take place at the Trumbull Marriott on Saturday, November 4th. With the theme of Northern Lights, student government has also scheduled its first blood drive of the school year, which will be held on Thursday, November 30th. Finally, we are in the midst of the application process for freshman elections. Voting will take place during Bunnell High School Advance after the application deadline for Tuesday, September 26th. Now we're on to the leadership programs and extracurriculars. Starting off with Men of Color, MOC. Bunnell's Men of Color Leadership Group has had several meetings this year. The theme for this year is the work, as they recommit their efforts to uplift our community. They are planning a board game a volunteer event at the Baldwin Center on November 21st. President Bolambe Aiboki will be presenting on the Men of Color at the CIAC Sportsmanship Banquet on October 3rd. Bolembe and Assistant Principal Ramos will be panelists at the 3rd Annual CIAC Men of Color Leadership Conference on October 25th. We are excited to announce that we are working with Flood and Worcester Middle Schools to help them create Men of Color groups at their schools. Next, we have Bulldogs in Training. The Bulldogs in Training program will be starting its 3rd year of monitoring support with 2nd Helene and Flood Middle School students. Bulldogs in Training is a mentorship program in which 11th and 12th grade students place an emphasis on long-term relationship development with an intensive role modeling for younger students. Moving on to athletics. The Bunnell Athletic Department is proud to be one of 29 schools in the state to be recognized with the Michaels Achievement Cup for its efforts to improve sportsmanship in the high school athletics. Our class act captains will be receiving this award at the Kayak Sportsmanship Conference on October 3rd. The September athletes of the month were Michael Riley, cross country, and Alina Gillis, dance. Our Athletic Leadership Council and Class Act Captain members met last week to review important details for the SWC Leadership Workshop that was held over the summer at Bethel High School. 10 athletes attended over the workshop and shared out some of the initiatives and ideas that they can use with their own teams in an effort to become strong leaders. In conclusion, thank you very much for your time and allowing me to share all this happening at Bunnell High School. Have a nice rest of the evening, and thank you very much.
Thank you. That was amazing for your first presentation. I can't wait to see by June. It's going to be like, who knows? Exciting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alfred. At this time, I would like to call up Principal Jack Del Piano to introduce Straford High School Student Representative.
Thank you, Dr. Sunday, Board of Education. This time I had to have Danny Brennan, he's already on his way down, come join me at the podium. Danny Brennan is the 12th grade student at Straford High School. He's joined tonight with his mother, Maura, and his father, Tim. Let's give him a nice round of applause. Danny's involved in several extracurricular activities at Straford High School, including football, link crew, and our weightlifting club. Additionally, Danny engages in a rigorous and challenging course load at Straford High School. He is passionate about helping others and serving his own community. Daniel is a natural-born leader and has been recognized by the staff and students at Straford High School, which made him the recipient of the 2023 Straford High School CABE Leadership Award winner last year. Danny also represented the Straford High School student body by participating on our student panels for our Spring Point visit last spring. In this role, he was able to articulate his high school experience with the Portrait of a Graduate team and served as a peer tutor and tour guide for our visitors. Most importantly, Danny treats all individuals with respect and kindness. You'll be sure that every time you see him in the hallway, he'll have a smile on his face and he'll ask you about your day. His sincerity and compassionate behavior are radiant. He exemplifies what it means to truly lead by example. Ladies and gentlemen, Straford High School is lucky to have Daniel Brennan as our rep for the school year. Please give him a nice round of applause.
Welcome to the 23 through 24 school year. As you heard, my name is Dan Brennan, and I'm honored to be the SHS student rep to the Board of Education this school year. My time here spent at Straford High has taught me many things and helped guide me on my path through life. Overall, my experience here at the school has been a positive one, and I look forward to enjoying my senior year here and making memories. On August 29th, Straford High School learned that for the 7th consecutive year, they were named the best high school report by the U.S. News. Straford High School jumped to 4,558th nationally and to 93rd in Connecticut. That Connecticut ranking represents an increase in our state ranking by more than 20 schools. Congratulations to the faculty, students, and families, and thank you for everything you do to help make SHS a great place. Thursday, August 31st marked the return to school for the students of Stratford. Every school year brings a sense of excitement and for me a sense of joy as I start my last year in preparation for my future. On Friday, September 15th, Mr. Delapiano and Mrs. Toth traveled to Middletown, Connecticut with Dr. Graff and Miss Borgerson. Both SHS and BHS were honored by the Connecticut State Department of Education for achieving their goal in the 22 through 23 FAFSA Challenge. This effort, spearheaded by Ms. Toth at SHS, focused on increasing the number of students who complete the FAFSA application to help offset the cost of attending college. Both schools were presented with a Certificate of Achievement from Charlene Russell Tucker, the Commissioner of Education for the State Department of Education. Well done. September 18th marked the start of our video production classes producing our morning announcements, under the direction of Mr. Palmucci. Students record the morning announcements which broadcast through the school each morning. This is a great way to learn about the happenings around SHS and a great way to start each day. The Humanities Department started planning events centered around community partnerships. Organized by Ms. Borgeli, yearbook and journalism students will be attending the 38th Annual Student Journalism Day at Southern Connecticut State University, having the opportunity to engage in student-centered workshops and hear from Christine Stewart, Editor-in-Chief of the CTNewsJunkie.com. Stratford Rotary will also be partnering with students to engage in the four-way speech contest, an opportunity for students to build public speaking skills and advocate for something they believe strongly about. On September 21st, we learned that the Straford High School baseball team was awarded the Sportsmanship Award from the FCC-ABU. The Fairfield County chapter of Approved Baseball Umpires recognized their team for outstanding display of sportsmanship throughout the 2023 baseball season. Congratulations to Coach Buckmere and the SHS baseball team for the amazing award. On Friday, September 22nd, Straford High School students were given the opportunity to hear from Elizabeth Haney. Thanks to Amy Wiltsey and the SHS PTSA, Ellie, as she goes by, spoke to us about her struggles with mental health and how she turned those struggles into a public speaking and clothing business. Her company, Here For You, donates a portion of her profits to support suicide prevention. Her message was powerful, relevant, and heard by almost 1,050 students in grades 9, 10, 11, and 12. The school counseling department has been busy making schedule changes to ensure that all students are appropriately placed in academically rigorous courses and elective courses. The college application process is also off to a good start. Counselors will be going into senior English classrooms in the upcoming weeks to review the step-by-step college application process. Stratford High School will be hosting the Chelsea DeLucia from Connecticut Tech Inc. Educational Opportunity Center on bi-weekly basis to help students and their families with all parts of the college application process, including FAFSA completion. College admission representatives have begun coming in to provide students with information sessions regarding their colleges and universities. Haley Kabza will be hosting a field trip to UConn Stanford on September 27th, where 40 students will have the opportunity to tour the campus, their dorms, and learn about their educational majors. All seniors and juniors were invited to attend. Additionally, in collaboration with Bunnell, we will be coordinating in the FAFSA Challenge, where our goal is to strengthen post-secondary access and enrollment by raising the FAFSA completion rates again this year. Sports at SHS are underway, and we are happy to share that we have 279 student athletes competing on 11 teams this fall, representing 25% of our student body. The Fairfield County Baseball Umpires Association I read the wrong page. Sorry. While we applaud the efforts of all students, athletes, SHS would also like to give a shout out to our girls volleyball team. Right now, the record is 7-1, and they are ranked number 1 in the Class L for the state of Connecticut. Thank you again for this opportunity, and I look forward to meeting with you guys every month at SHS.
Outstanding. It's again so good to have student voice here. I think both these young individuals represent everything that we want in Stratford students. So we wish you both a strong senior year and welcome to the Stratford Board of
Really really great job, guys. And I'll tell you, if you do not want to stay for the rest of the meeting, you are now welcome to leave, but join us, stay, it's so much fun. They know. All right, so we're going to move on to our public forum session. Just a reminder, every speaker has 3 minutes. Ms. Wiltie will be keeping time for me. When you come up to the podium, please state your name and address if you're an adult, and if you are a student, please just state your first name. And our first speaker this evening is Mr. Fiorello.
Mike Fiorello, 20 Red Fox Road. Thank you. As president of the Straford Education Association, I was given a letter signed by 12 Stratford music teachers and addressed to the superintendent and assistant superintendent, and they also asked me to share highlights of the letter with you as the board. The letter acknowledges the willingness of central office leaders to meet to address changes in scheduling and staffing among elementary music teachers, but it states, some minor changes were made, but the overall negative impact this reduction will have on Stratford students and the Stratford community has not changed. The teachers cite the loss of 4 elementary music positions, 3 teachers left the district and were not replaced, and a 4th was moved to the secondary level. The teachers state, at many of our schools, the amount of time for instrumental music instruction has been reduced by 50% or more. This is more than simply cost-cutting by finding efficiencies. The units of the board-approved instrumental music curriculum, they write, require students to receive instruction in small groups of like instrument and ability. Because the staff has been stretched so thin, we are not able to meet those parameters. Most schools have at least some groups of mixed instruments and/or groups of mixed years of experience playing their instrument. Many schools have almost all groups of mixed instruments and/or mixed ability. This will significantly impair student learning. Students who are working from Book 2, for example, are placed in groups with students in Book 1. This is akin to teaching a math class where some students are learning algebra and some are learning geometry at the same time. One of our important strategies for helping students become literate musicians is to chant the pitches of notes out loud in mixed instrument groups. Even when playing the same sounding pitches, instruments are often looking at different printed notes. Can you imagine how confused a beginning clarinet player would be if they're reading a C while they hear saxophones in their lesson group chanting G and the flutes chanting B flat? The Stratford Instrumental Music Curriculum also has specific units for beginning and advanced ensemble rehearsals. Some teachers are finding themselves in the impossible situation that if they were to make space for the ensemble rehearsals, they would not have time to fit all of their lesson groups. We also have many students with exceptionalities who want access to instrumental music program in a way that allows them to grow as musicians and learners. In the past, many of these students would be placed in an even smaller group, catering to their ability level. This year, teachers are finding that we have no choice but to place some of our neediest students in groups where we can't offer them the level of attention they've had in the past. Before the start of the school year, the
I'm
music...
sorry, Mr. Fiorello. It was 3 minutes.
Okay.
Apologies.
I've got the letter if anybody wants it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fiorello. Okay, and our next speaker is Ms. Kara. She might need help with the mic, Mom.
Hi, my name is Kara Cummings. I'm in 5th grade at Wilcoxon, and the last time I saw Mr. Babby was at the last day of band camp. I expected to see him on the first day of school, but then I realized he wasn't there, so that's very sad. And now our music teacher is our chorus, orchestra, band, and Sunday morning announcements. This is enough. We are so short on staff. And also, I have to play with all the woodwind instruments. And last year, I only played with my instrument. And Thank you so much.
I love it. Get the musical interlude. All right. That was a great job. Thank you so much to both of our speakers. I appreciate it. We will move on this evening to our presentations. Dr. Sunday, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We can talk a little bit more about the topic at a later time, but how impressive are our students coming up here and speaking? Honored and excited to be up here today to do a few presentations. Last year, the Straford Public Schools experienced some pretty impressive things that I think we're going to present on here in a few moments. But I would like to take a moment to really kind of highlight some people, some folks who were instrumental in some of the things that we did as a school system, and that's some of the Straford Public Schools Teacher of the Year finalists, okay? These individuals went through an extremely rigorous process and distinguished themselves from their peers. And again, these individuals had an indelible impact on some of the things you'll see a little bit later in this board meeting. So I'm going to call on 7 specific individuals. If you can, come up. We do have a certificate for you in recognition of your finalist placement. And then we will take, I'm going to ask the board chair to come down and snap a quick picture, and then we'll move on to the next recognition. All right? All right, here we go. Ms. Elena Tadani from Straford High School. And I do recognize some of them are here and some may not be here as well. From Franklin Elementary School, Ms. Melinda Theriot. From Nichols Elementary School, Mr. Lou Bonaventura. Nichols Elementary School, Mrs. Victoria Pillow. Nichols Elementary School, Ms. Sonia Riley. Can't hide that Nichols pride, huh? I see you, Dr. Derio. All right. From Second Hill Lane Elementary School, Ms. Jennifer Linger. And closing us out from Wilcoxon Elementary School, Ms. Jackie Giordano. You all walk around. All right, so let's grab this. Alana, please come up for your certificate. She's not here. And Ms. Therio? Not here. And Lou? And Victoria? Sonia? Jen? And Jackie. Again, some amazing people who have impacted the lives of kids as scholars and as individuals. Thank you so much again. Another round of applause for those. And last, you've probably heard this name over the last couple of months. If you have had a chance to be around her, you know how magnetic her personality is. She is our Straford Public Schools Teacher of the Year with 15 years in the district, 14? 18, right? Put your hands together for that, 18 years. Ms. Sue Maida from Eli Whitney Elementary School, please come up. Again, a magnetic personality, somebody who students, families, and colleagues gravitate towards. If you've been around her, you recognize that her philosophy is that children need to feel nurtured and loved. The classroom is their safe haven, our home away from home. If you were fortunate to join us at our convocation, you probably saw about 60 people wearing t-shirts with the Maida's crew on the back. She is an outstanding individual who gave some powerful remarks to our professional community, encouraging them to love outrageously. Please join me in congratulating Ms. Sue Maida as this year's Teacher of the Year.
I swear, he's gonna turn me into a public speaker. I told him as soon as I won, I don't do this, and here I am. Thank you. I mean, honestly and truly, all I can say is thank you. This is such an honor and a privilege to represent a town that I love so very much. So thank you from the very bottom of my heart. I love what I do. I love all of these kids, and I am so honestly blessed to be a part of such a wonderful community. I mean, my teachers, my high school guidance counselor, they're all here. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Again, another round of applause for Ms. Maida. She will represent Stratford at the state level, and we wish you the best.
Okay, and I'm going to hand it off to you again, Dr. Sunday, for our SPS School Year 23 Student Performance Data presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I remember standing in this very auditorium about a year ago discussing these items. So there's a host of things that we endeavored. Yes, I'm going to call you down. I'll call you down.
Move down.
Yeah, I'm going to call you down. Don't come down yet. So I got to look up this way and talk, right? There are a host of things that we endeavored to do. An incredible amount of people who've poured in a lot of energy and a lot of effort. I did just recognize a few of those individuals, but there's so many more. We believe it's important to recognize each win and each growth. I've said at the board, to our board, I've said publicly that the nature of the work that we're doing is based on incremental growth. And last year there were some remarkable things that happened for us here at the Straford Public Schools. We believe that there are two ways to improve, right? Either do things a little bit differently or hope that everybody else behind us regresses, right? We don't have control of one of those things. So today, we recognize that while these growth measures that we will present to all of you are not the only indicators of success, it is meaningful nonetheless, and we'll continue to strive to improve. So through this presentation, and it will be presented by leaders across the school system, you will learn metrics and highlights that we've around areas where we've all grown, and you'll also learn a little bit about the action steps that our teachers and our kiddos took towards this growth opportunities. So there's some remarkable things that are happening here at the Straford Public Schools, and in some cases, things that have never happened here before. And we're excited to present that to all of you. So with that, I will hand the baton off to our Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, who will begin this presentation. Dr. Daniels?
Thank you. Thank you. At this time, we're going to transition to our presentations. I'm going to ask if you guys can step down and find a seat close to the front.
Trying to take it a little easy on your necks, all right? So come down. What we will do is present the data, and then we will create some space for questions and answers.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Dr. Daniels, Assistant Superintendent of Schools, and I'm going to start us off with a discussion around our performance data from the 22-23 school year. As Dr. Sunday shared, we have a lot of positive growth that has taken place over the past year. We also have areas of growth that we plan to work on throughout this next school year with specific strategies, and we're going to walk through those moments here today. On our slide here is my strategic operating plan priorities, our strategic priority plan. And I want to start by kind of telling us what got us here. So there were a group of parents, community stakeholders, administrators, teachers who got together to identify what are the key areas in which we need to focus on to improve student learning outcomes. There was a theory of action that was designed, and within our theory of action, you will find in the strategic operating plan that it was our focus specifically to respond to the achievement and the gap needs of all students, inclusive of access to quality learning, opportunities with the appropriate supports customized to student need. Then all students will learn, perform, and achieve at a high standard and thereby acquire the SPS Portrait of a Graduate attribute, adequately preparing them to respond to the rigors and outcomes of post-secondary transition. With this theory in mind, we knew that we had to make dramatic improvements in student outcomes in a short period of time, and so we spent our 22-23 school year supporting our principals specifically and how to familiarize themselves with yielding prompt and quick results for our student learning. If you look here, I'm just going to click here, some educational practices that our schools focused on specifically. The first was prioritizing academic data to inform decision making. We took an intensive focus on our school improvement plan to ensure that our students were our priority, that we use data to inform our practices. We also engaged in professional learning communities that were about teaching and learning and ensuring that we were using data to guide instruction. And in addition to that, we worked on cross-strategy collaboration. An example of that was our code of conduct. Principals got together, students got together, parents, community, board members got together to create that code of conduct. So there was this cross-strategy collaboration, not only for our code of conduct, but other areas of our work. And then lastly, it was critical to monitor for support. As our principals and our teachers engaged in the deep work of using data to inform instruction, it was critical that we supported our leaders and supported our teacher with the PD necessary to develop their practice so that they were able to apply formative assessments and identify areas of growth. So in summary, we started with, again, the strategic operating plan, our strategic operating plan. And in that plan, we identified a theory of action and began to focus on these educational practices, which has yielded us the growth that we are going to present today. So at this time, I'm going to start us off with Mr. Traverso, our newest addition to the team, who's going to talk a little bit about the district data overview and the growth made there.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight we will have data presented, but before we begin to examine the data, I would like to identify that our strategic operating plan of the district is actually the conceptual framework that offers a rationale for both data collection and analyses and reflection of systemic responses. Tonight, when we met as a team multiple times in preparing for the preparation, Dr. Sunday's constant message to us And his objective was for us to tell the whole story, for both data collection, analyses, reflection, and systemic responses, but in the areas of challenges and growth areas and strengths. He wanted the entire story of Stratford and what Stratford was doing to be presented. The good work, as well as the work we have ahead of us. These slides and discussions should prove clarity of the intentionality of the work that we're doing in terms of understanding the framework, the areas of growth, the performance metrics by which we're measured, whether it's individually as a school or collectively as a district, and our potential as a district. But as with any organizational plan, and Dr. Daniels had responded to this, referred to this earlier, our initial step is to build a theory of action. That serves as our roadmap as we navigate through the challenges and complexities of competing priorities and sometimes possible distractions. The theory of action identifies 3 key areas. One is, in your questions, where are we? The second is, where do we want to be? And the third, how are we going to get there? So collecting data is part of the process, but our effective response to the findings is a critical step in helping us succeed. A third part is providing tools, resources, professional learning, and supports that are all key contributors to ensuring a continuation of the growth process. We will see through this process, and it happens organically, is the evolution of 3 organizational characteristics. The first being a conceptual base, and this ensures that the district priorities are not just working, but are actually thriving. And if they're thriving, our children are thriving. The second, a culture of inquiry, where progress monitoring takes place. This is where we all operate as reflective practitioners in improving our practice, making certain that all of our work is aligned in an effective manner. And third is the most important one, and this is about collective responsibility. This is so that everyone can focus on children, and we jointly embrace the needs of our Stratford children and families. And this is not just the North Star shining on student performance data. This serves, more importantly, as a compass for us to ensure that every Stratford family and every child in Stratford has a life-changing educational experience. It's incumbent upon us to ensure that this happens. So let's set the stage by examining the first step that I talked about earlier in my in my presentation. Where are we? How is our performance measured, and in comparison to who or what? And how have we been categorized historically? This table refers to the performance in terms of our district in comparison to other districts or surrounding districts in regards to ELA, math, and science. It's broken out into 3 years, pre-pandemic and 2 years of post-pandemic. What is a performance index? The performance index is a rubric that the state uses to measure our productivity, our effectiveness as a school district. Again, it could be categorically categorized as individual schools or as a district. So let's take a look. So this slide compares us to the surrounding towns of Stratford. We have Trumbull doing exceptional work, Shelton, Milford, and then Stratford, and then Bridgeport. So if we look at that, there's a significant difference between Stratford's performance and Trumbull's performance, but there's not a significant difference that we can't move up. We can look at this as, oh God, what are we doing? Or we can look at this as, thank God, we collected the data to determine what we were doing. So if we take a look at this, we can see that with just a little bit of effort, we can move ourselves up. This doesn't mean that we answer to that as where we are or who we are. We answer to this as where we want to be as a district. The second slide is another performance index comparison. Now, if you see these towns, you'll see that we're compared to Bristol, Hamden, Stratford, and Manchester. What this is, and it says district reference group. This is something that was stopped in the early 2000s. It is biased, but the state used it as a mechanism to group cities for decades. And how it is it groups districts and towns based on their socioeconomic status. Obviously, it started with the wealthy and it worked down, and the state had 9 different DIRGs, or district reference groups. We were number 7, and there were 17 other schools, districts within that group of that DIRG. So if we look at this, I took out of the 17 schools, we took out, I should say, the 3 other districts that had similar student population numbers to Stratford. And with that, we can take a look at this and say, my God, it's only a few percentage points will make a difference here. We can be the top performing district in this group of other schools that are comparable student population numbers. Won't take much work. And again, this is not what we answer to in terms of where we are, but this is how we answer to where we want to be. And again, this is a collective responsibility for all of us to understand the framework and recognize the direction that we have to go in and align all of our practices. This can be construed as disconcerting. This is, again, chronic absenteeism is one of the indexes that the state uses to measure our performance as a district. So if we look at the surrounding towns, Trumbull, Shelton, Milford, Stratford, and Bridgeport, and in this slide we actually put in the state of Connecticut as in another comparative entity, we can see that we really have a lot of work to do in chronic absenteeism. No school district from pre-pandemic has met that standard that they had prior to the pandemic now, but many of the districts are moving in the right direction. Now, this certainly doesn't tell us that at the boundaries or the city limits, our kids just decide that on the other side of the city limits, the kids aren't going to go to school. This means this has to do with what message we're providing to all the families, how we're engaging all the students, and the effort that every single school in our district and every single person in our district, what we have to do collectively to improve in this measure. If we look at that 28.4%, think about that. If we cut that in half, how many more students will be in front of teachers every single day in every classroom? This is not what we answer to, but this tells us where we have to go. This also doesn't tell us the full story about all the good things that are happening in schools. I want to let you know, Eli Whitney and Rob Vitteri's staff, they deserve a round of applause because their chronic absenteeism rate was around 10%. How about a round of applause for them? You know, I met with Rob the other day, and he talked about his investment, his staff's investment in terms of the families and the students in the school. That personalized treatment makes such a distinct difference in terms of how families respond to their children going to schools. And that's what we want to replicate throughout the entire district. If we look at, this is again a comparison to the three other towns in the state of Connecticut regarding Bristol, Hampden, Manchester, and the state of Connecticut. Again, it's an indication that we haven't moved in the right direction. But again, I want to say thank goodness we collected this data, so now we can make a concerted efforts in making sure that our work aligns to improving our absenteeism rates in this district. I'll let you take a moment to digest that. At this time, I would like to introduce Sue Schmidt, and she's going to, and Rob Vitari, and Diana Diorio, and Dan Hicks. I can't believe I got all your names right. In terms of the next section of the presentation.
I would like to thank this team tonight for coming together to present this data. The principals, Dr. Diorio, Dan Hicks, Rob Viteri, are each going to present on the data from our SBAC elementary schools. Some of the actions we have taken since 2021 has included the science of reading training. We've added additional decodable books in our classrooms, K-3 classrooms for our students and teachers. We have focused on intervention, having our reading teachers and math coaches in the classroom working with teachers and students. We have added iReady Math and Reading, hired school climate specialists so principals could be in the classrooms as well as facilitate data team meetings. We've also added additional social workers in some of the buildings to work with students so that students could be in the classrooms. So, how do we know that these actions were effective?
Thanks. So we're confident that the systems that we put in place have led to some of these outcomes that we see on our elementary SBAC trends. As we look at all 4 grade levels, 3 through 6, we note an upward trend in proficiency levels over the past 3 post-pandemic years. We're encouraged that our work with the science of reading will fortify foundational reading skills for our children in K-2 that will then translate into continuation of these upward trends and these outcomes on future assessments for those grades 3 through 6 students moving forward.
Thank you. And similarly to reading, we have an upward trend in our math data, and that is our math SBAC in all grades 3 through 6. While there was a slight decrease, very slight, in proficiency levels for grades 4 and 6, not through 6, it is reassuring to know that there is intentional monitoring happening at all of the levels, as Dr. Daniels and Mr. Traverso kind of mentioned. So to grow as an institution, we take the overall scores and we drill down to look for specific areas of growth and non-growth at the grade level, at the classroom, and at the individual level. This helps us to focus and progress monitoring on an individual level. So it's heartwarming. It's heartening to see that this trend is helping us to beat the pre-pandemic growth, and it's very exciting to be closing those gaps.
The next few slides will highlight some of the growth that we're seeing from specific groups of students, drilling down, as Dr. Diora just mentioned. So this slide shows the 3-year achievement of a specific group of students, our current Straford Public School 7th graders. As you can see, as a cohort, they've made significant gains in both ELA and maintained incremental growth year over year in mathematics during their time with us in their 4th, 5th, and 6th grade years. Our next 2 slides are going to highlight some of the gains we've seen specifically over the last 3 years from our high-need students, which includes our multilingual learners as well as our students with exceptionalities. As you can see on this slide presenting the ELA data, and as you'll see on the next slide presenting the math data, what we're most excited about in this growth is that particularly in math, as you'll see on the next slide, students are moving up amongst the proficiency levels. For example, a student who may have scored a level 2, which would have been that yellow band in 2021, has moved up to perhaps a level 3 in 2022, that green band. As you can see,
Over the past 3 years in both ELA and in math, we've increased the percentage of high needs students in each of those yellow, green, and blue areas, students scoring 2, 3, and 4 on the Smarter Balance assessment. And we've also decreased the percentage of students each year in that red band on that level 1 level proficiency. We as educators expect growth from all of our students, including our high needs students. And as you can see, we're thrilled to be seeing this positive movement amongst those students. This is a testament to the work not only of our teachers to differentiate and meet the needs of all of our unique learners, but making sure that we're connecting with and supporting every student that walks through our doors.
Finally, here we see again the annual growth on the grade 5 NGSS for each of the past 2 years since 2021. We attribute this to the consistency in utilizing the mystery science resource and our NGSS teaching practices, as well as our partnership with the Audubon for field experience opportunities in the primary grades, which help move these students when they get to the 5th grade NGSS assessment. We're going to move on to Sam Rosenberg and the middle school. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. Greg Regas, the principal at Flood, and together with Ms. Fonseca and Ms. Rosenberg, we're going to talk to you a little bit about the middle schools. As has been well documented in past meetings here at the board, the middle level presents its own unique set of challenges. That would help. And our achievement data, as well as middle school data for both state and national levels, represents those challenges. As you can see here, our children's achievement in 7th grade in ELA has unfortunately been trending a bit downward the past 3 years. And in 8th grade, we had an uptick in 21-22, and then a decrease last year in 22-23. We're hoping to build on the performance at the elementary schools as they enter the middle levels in both ELA and math, and we hope to see some of those successes translated over to the middle level in the coming years. I'm going to now turn it over to Ms. Fonseca, who's going to talk about our math scores.
Thank you to the distinguished members of the board. As you can see, there definitely has been an upward trend over the past few years in our math data. You can see school year 2023 saw a considerable increase over the previous year, and that can be attributed to our math curriculum, in addition to our new math interventionists, Danielle Taylor and Matt Damone, who were for the amazing teachers, and they were afforded the opportunity to come work with us through the Alliance grant. And as my colleagues already have stated, we look forward to the work that has been done in the elementaries and coming up to see the achievement in our middle school. So I'm going to hand it over to Mrs. Rosenberg.
So here are 8th graders performing in next-gen science standards similar to the 5th grade. We're looking at an increase from 2021 to 21-22. We've had a slight dip in 2022-2023, but I do want to stress that for this particular class of 8th graders, this is the first time they have taken the assessment. Unlike the other cohorts, the 5th graders typically are the first time they're exposed to that particular test. So kudos to our students for maintaining pretty much a typical performance standard for having been exposed for the first time to this assessment. I'd also like to shout out to the science teachers in the middle schools have stayed very consistent with our Open SciEd resource program and applying those practices as well. So at this moment in time, I'm going to pass it over to our high school colleagues. Come on down.
So I'm just going to introduce the high school team. I'm Joanna Madarian-Garb, the supervisor of 504 School Counseling and Assessments. And with me is Jack Delapiano, who's the principal at Straford High, Katie Graff, who is the principal at Bunnell, and Denise Massari, who is the supervisor of dual language, ESOL, and world language.
Thank you, Joanna.
Hold
on 1 second here. We were just commenting on our coordination of colors tonight. We try to do this quite often. I want to say it's truly an honor to be here tonight presenting the data on behalf of our high schools for you. As you can see, in 2023, 11th grade students in Straford saw an average increase of 24 points on the school day SAT. Two things make this gain even more impressive. The first is that 47 more students had access last year to take the SAT than the previous year. And over that same time frame, students across Connecticut saw an average decrease of 11 points on the school day SAT. The reason we point that out is because we made up a 35-point gain over our scores compared to Connecticut from just a year ago. So what that means is Straford High School and Bunnell High School did a wonderful job at not only closing the achievement gap in Straford, but also at the state level. We would like to thank all of you, Dr. Sunday, Dr. Daniels, the Board of Education, for your continued support of the high schools in Straford. The ability to run SAT prep classes, both after school and on Saturdays, as well as AP prep courses, have shown an increase in what our students can demonstrate to us. You're going to learn about that from Dr. Graff in just a few minutes. I also want to commend the teachers at the high school levels, both Straford and Bunnell. They showed an unwavering commitment to incorporating both SAT and AP style questions into their lessons on a daily basis. They collaborated around student data, about student performance, and we had honest conversations about how we move people forward. Most importantly, they showed they're committed to teaching and learning, and for that, we thank them. Thank you very much to all the teachers here. At this time, please help me welcome Dr. Graff. She's going to disaggregate the data just a little more for you. Dr. Graff?
Thank you, Mr. Delapiano. I'm sorry I missed the beginning of this meeting, but I heard my dear friend, Mr. Tano, did an amazing job, as did Barron, so thank you for that. While we are super proud of the overall growth that we saw in the SAT, we are even more proud of the growth that we saw within various subgroups. Overall, the percentage of students who score proficient or higher in the EBRW increased by 4.1%, but this is where it gets really exciting. With regard to students who meet the high needs subgroup, this is students who receive free or reduced lunch, students with disabilities, and our English language learners. The percentage of high needs students who scored proficient or higher increased by 10.7%. That's better. The percentage of Black and African American students who scored proficient or higher increased by 10.8%. And the percentage of Hispanic students who scored proficient or higher on the EBRW increased by 4.5%. Thank you. In math, we saw an overall 6.9% increase in students who scored proficient or higher. With regard to our high needs students, the percentage of high needs students who score proficient or higher increased by 9.6% in math. The percentage of Black and African American students who score proficient or higher in math increased by 12.7%. And the percentage of Hispanic students who scored proficient or higher on the math was 10.5% increase. Again, to echo the sentiments of my colleague, Mr. Delapiano, we attribute this growth across both areas and all of these subgroups to the hard work, dedication, and commitment of our teachers at both Straford High School and Bunnell, and the belief that all students can achieve. Thank you.
So continuing the trend, we not only increased as a district, but our subgroups continue to increase in science. So our high needs group increased by 7.1% from the previous year. Our Black and African American students increased by 3.5%, and our Hispanic students increased by 9% over the previous year on the NGSS. And like my colleague said, lots of work on the part of the science teachers to make this a reality. On AP performance, we are continuing our trends. So we increased the number of students who are actually taking the AP exams, and we increased the percentage of students who were scoring a 3 or higher. That means more students are gaining the opportunity after high school to potentially earn college credit. And again, our teachers are working incredibly hard in the AP classes to give students the opportunity to score a 3, 4, or 5 on the AP exam. Some students, just so you know, do opt to take the dual enrollment credit instead of going into the AP test, because if they do well in the class, they get the grade and they don't have to take an exam. So, you know, some of our numbers reflect not every student is choosing to take the AP exam, but those who are continue to do better. I'm going to pass it to Denise.
Hello, good evening. Earning the seal of biliteracy is really quite an accomplishment. It shows that a student is bilingual and biliterate in at least 2 languages. And it is an extensive exam. It can last anywhere from 3 to 5 hours. And it's voluntary on top of that. So you can imagine putting yourself through that. And while that percentage might seem small, I think it's important to note because it celebrates the linguistic diversity that we have here in Stratford. And it also demonstrates that more of our students are participating and are successful. So kudos to them, big shout out to them for participating and undergoing such a difficult and grueling exam to earn such an honorary seal. It also shows that we are better positioning our students to participate in a global and ever-changing world. So I thank you, board members, Dr. Sunday, and my colleagues for supporting our students to be able to participate in this. Thank you. I will pass that on back to you.
So additional measures of post-secondary readiness includes our arts access, our PE and physical fitness, and our college and career readiness. So in terms of the arts access, we did increase our access at the high school level by almost 6% this year. We brought back some music technology class. We increased our capacity to have more students in piano and guitar, and we continue to look at ways to have students to have access for both music and the arts. In PE, we did see a slight decrease. It is the first year that we've had an online system. The state has rolled that out for inputting scores in terms of sit and reach and pacer, the mile, looking at students' just overall physical fitness in a variety of categories. And we have the opportunity to continue to work, the PE teachers, the athletic directors, working together to see how can we help students achieve the level of fitness that will be really helpful to them after they leave our schools. In terms of college and career readiness, we continue to increase the number of students who are taking courses. So these are CTE courses, these are AP courses, these are dual enrollment courses. And you can see we are above our pre-pandemic levels. We have 97% of students who have access and the opportunity to take the courses. And we are continuing to increase how students are doing on those exams if they take it with AP, dual enrollment, and SAT, so that they earn credits as a result of taking those classes. I'm going to pass it back to Dr. Daniels.
So Mr. Traverso started us off with, where are we now? What we see is evidence of growth, lots of growth in many spaces. We also see that there's opportunity for even more growth to happen. We know that there are some areas that we intend to focus on this year and invest a lot of our time, resources, and supports, particularly in the chronic absenteeism and our middle school, to ensure that our students are successfully prepared for their high school transition. But the next part of this is, where are we going and how do we get there? And to move us forward this evening and close out our presentation, I wanted to provide you with the summary of how we plan to obtain some growth this year, again, continuing the growth that we've made already. And we have 3 areas that we plan to focus on. So one is continuing with the cross-strategy collaboration. Our schools have already begun to take the NWEA assessment, which allows our teachers to understand what's called the zone of proximity. And that is essentially where our students can go, and it allows us to plan instruction using that data to support our students. But it also allows us to determine what students can be placed in enrichment opportunities, talented opportunities. It allows us to determine what students might need multi-tiered system of supports, interventions, and particularly to bring them back onto grade level. We also are going to continue the work with regards to restorative practices and using our code of conduct to ensure that our environment is one in which allows learning to happen in all of our classrooms. And then also we are working with the additional resources from the Alliance Grant to focus intentionally on chronic absenteeism and how do we support our schools and our families and our students with engagement. And particularly I want to shout out Ms. Temple and Ms. Redding for their significant work this past year and the work they've started already. Because it was only a few weeks ago that we had this very long line going all around Straford High School to bring our parents right here. And that was our first approach for the 2023-2024 school year to really partner with our families. In addition to that, we're going to continue to monitor for support. We know that we are refining our curriculum. We think about the K-3 science of reading. We're talking about looking at what we call a year-long context, looking at standards and ensuring that every classroom, our teachers are measuring learning and delivering instruction that's aligned to our standards that are grade level. We are also, again, as I mentioned earlier, middle school supports and continuing with expansion of the intervention works because we've seen the growth. We know that when we have our interventionists in our space, we will see growth. And so we plan to continue that work. And again, continuing the data analysis at the classroom, grade level, department, and school level. That's key, is that we sit down and we reflect on where students are and we map out a plan to move them forward. And so we continue to do that, and we'll continue to also have our professional learning communities. We are very thankful for the professional learning communities because we're able to use data and provide space for our teaching staff to really develop and grow and practice. And lastly, this year, we're going to continue our focus on the development of assessments to measure student learning, how to give feedback from those assessments, designing independent learning activities, and culturally and linguistically responsive classrooms. These 3 areas are part of what we call our high quality instruction attributes, and that will be our focus for this academic year. I want to again thank everyone and credit our growth to our teaching staff, to our administrators who led our teachers this past year, and the board, the students, and the parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Daniels. Ask the board members to please step back up on stage. Remarkable work, and again, a round of applause for the professional community at the Straford Public Schools. A round of applause for our students for showing us what they are capable of doing. Again, as we started this conversation, we recognize that while these are things that we get measured against by state folks, internally, externally, we recognize that while we're incredibly proud of this growth, and this is a distinctly different field than the presentation from last year, we recognize that this is not the only measure of success, okay? The work of educating our kids is comprehensive. The board made a commitment to support the whole child, so SEL becomes a conversation that we need to continue to stay on top of. But we'd be remiss, okay, not to acknowledge that there's some pretty remarkable things that are happening here, and in some cases, some things that have not happened. One of the things that probably did not show up in the slide was something that one of our student reps spoke about, was the fact that Straford High jumped up 24 ranking spots in the U.S. News and World Report, or the fact that our black students across 2 high schools jumped up on average 50 points in the SAT, right? Those are things that we talk about as educators as closing the achievement gap, narrowing the opportunity gap as well. And I walk away with the question of what if. As the superintendent of schools, I walk away with the question of what if. And this year gives us the ability to respond to the what ifs. What if we had greater response to chronic absenteeism? What does that now mean for our students who are engaged, who are now sitting in front of our staff? What if we didn't have, in some aspects, substitutes in front of our students, and we had certified and qualified folks teaching our kids? What if we engage our kids a little bit more and really get them to dive into what it means to be a scholar and academic, right? These are all questions that we ask on a regular basis, and these are all questions that I believe that the best professional education community in the state of Connecticut is positioned to respond to this year. So we're happy to celebrate all the things that we've done in 1 year. We're humble in recognizing that there's still a good amount of places where we can improve. We have plans to respond to that, and we are grateful for the support, not just from the Straford Board of Education, but from our families and the community of Stratford. So thank you, and at this time, we will defer to you, Madam Chair, for questions.
Great, and before I take any questions, can I just ask that the board is sent this presentation so that we can look at the numbers a little more up close? Thank you. Okay, any questions? Yes, Ms. Bedell.
I just want to make a comment that I think, well, I have a question too. The growth in certain areas is definitely notable, the high need students. With Black and Hispanic students, the growth is measurable, and that's phenomenal. In some of the other areas, I feel like it was a bit lackluster, I'm going to be honest. I feel like we're still struggling in some areas, a lot of areas, and I was hoping to see a little bit more improvement for some of our students this year, and I feel like the focus on different groups being, whether it being high needs students or English language learners or students of color or whatever it might be, is there a group of students that is being left behind? Is there a group of students that is just not being focused on?
Yeah.
A large group of students from what the numbers are showing.
Sure. Is that a question or is that a statement?
It's a question.
Yes. So certainly when you talk about whole school and whole system improvement, there's always a subgroup of kids who are not quite meeting the mark. But evidently there's a series of variables as to why, okay? Now, what I will say with unbridled confidence, and it's backed by evidence and the presentation that our taxpayers and our stakeholders just saw, is what we saw last year happen here at the Stratford Public Schools in many circles of the education field is considered a turnaround job, okay? And for this to happen in 1 year, and I would want to bring back our audience back to when we received the designation, right, of the Alliance District, which said we're not a failing school system, but we are underperforming, okay? And as I've shared with the Board of Education, the way the state releases its report card, which is the accountability index, and you heard from Mr. Traverso, the district performance piece, it's against 12 different criterias with a focus on the subgroup that is typically forgotten about or left behind, and that's our high needs kids. So oftentimes kiddos are the kids who fall into that free reduced lunch range, the kids who are multilingual learners or kids with exceptionalities. We have been very deliberate, okay, about using the instrument of data-informed decision-making and data science for instructional improvement to make sure we respond and capture those kids who have historically been left behind. There is, and we can continue to disaggregate the data and unpack the data, but there is a significant amount of the growth that you just saw that can be credited almost exclusively to our kids who have, quote-unquote, historically been left behind. Now, this is only 1 year, and in a school system that has 7,000 kids, you've heard from our speakers and our presenters, we have a ton more work to do. But the things that this professional community has been able to accomplish in 1 year, is remarkable, and we're just only going to raise the bar after this work.
questions on the presentation? Mr. Henner?
Yeah, and again, I don't, so the last group of numbers we saw showed some considerable growth. The first group of graphs we saw perhaps didn't show that same result. So, and this is a very high level view of what's been going on, but I don't know if we can get a little more data as to what makes up those numbers to show the difference, why it seems to be a discrepancy between the two. But I know, you know, there's been a long road with this absenteeism and just getting the information and realizing the significant impact it has on our schools. Today being a day of foul weather, do we have any concept of what our absentee numbers were today? We've talked about weather having an impact and our transportation. It's a big issue. It's not necessarily it is part of the presentation, I guess, but what was our absentee rate today? Do we know?
Yeah.
And are we studying that data?
Sure. We study those things in intervals, okay? So we do not, I mean, the system will aggregate the data on a daily basis as student attendance is being taken every day. But I think, you know, a lot of the questions that you're talking about right now, and we were humble enough to notice and admit that chronic absenteeism needs to be a focus area for us as a school system. We have strategies that are in place, but one of the things that you are sharing right now is directly applicable to quote-unquote our walkers, right? Specifically, I can use the example of Straford High School. Those students who live within 2 miles of the school, on a day of rain or inclement weather, how does that now impact their attendance? It does look different in different places. We believe that how we engage families and how kids have a sense of belonging and connectedness to school matters. We recognize that in some spaces, some kids come to school purely because of the social space that they have and the academic learning that they have the ability to access. And in some extreme cases, kids come to school so they have a meal, right? So we're having those conversations. We're having those conversations in specific response to the chronic absenteeism. We have some designs through some grant funding to respond to this. Ms. Temple has initiated, along with Ms. Redden, a 90-day challenge, and I believe the enrollment with that challenge is at this point in time close to 400 families on that spreadsheet. We have multiple strategies to respond to that, but I do believe that since the conversation has happened at a policy level about that walking distance, that the committee and the board should revisit that conversation.
Just to follow up a little more. So, have we studied, well, on a day like today where it was a foul weather day, are we looking at our chronic absenteeism across the board? The assumption is that those who walk don't show up on rainy days on a higher percentage, but do we know that for a fact? And is it the same case as kids who have to wait out at the bus stop for 20 minutes to half an hour? But I mean, how deeply are we diving into the data to try to come with solutions? Or are we just making some broad-based assumptions and kind of hoping for the best? I mean, it doesn't seem like we have a strategic plan at this point to deal with the issue, other than to admit that it is an issue.
We actually have a very comprehensive strategic plan that's multi-pronged, not just at the building level, but also at the district level. And I think to answer your question, though, chronic absenteeism is a continuum pattern of behavior. It's not a standalone. So when you compute and when you assess this, it wouldn't just be which days of the week does it rain and why is that child absent. Chronic absenteeism is scaled against 180 days of the school year. So once the child hits a threshold, is when they are determined to be chronically absent. But I think from a correlation standpoint, I think for many of us, the layperson, we can assume that the average teenager who has to walk 2 miles to school on a day of rain or a day of inclement weather, it could impact their decision to walk out the door at 7:05 in the morning to walk to school. It's hard to pin that down because there's over 1,000 children at Straford High School and many more within walking distance at our other schools. You would have to track that down individual student by individual student. As such, the practice is to use an interval cadence, whether it's once a month or bi-weekly, to assess students' response to chronic absenteeism. And with that, we have wraparound services such as counselors, an attendance committee, social workers, and now as an additional strategy, we will be bringing on board folks who will engage exclusively in home visits at the elementary level, as well as the secondary level to partner with families to make sure kids come to school.
So, again, to truly assess the issue, well, for one, you said you have a district-wide plan, very detailed. I'd love to see that, if we can get that in writing, so we can take a look at that. What exactly is being done about chronic absenteeism? And please, share with us that plan in detail, so we can understand that. But again, getting to the real answer is to dig down into all the details and not make assumptions, which it sounds like we're doing a lot of that. But hopefully we're going to take this serious, and I've been talking about it for 7-8 months now, maybe even longer. So hopefully we can get some resolution to it. But please, by all means, share that plan with us, because I would love to see it.
Okay.
Thank you.
We will. We have full confidence that those numbers will look dramatically different next time we make this presentation.
Well, I'd love to see the plan you have in place now before that time.
Perfect. We'll make sure that that is given out to the board. Yes, Ms. Bedell.
There was a point made of comparing the numbers of chronic absenteeism to both our DERG and surrounding towns. And there was some clearly dramatic differences. Have we talked to other towns to see why they're decreasing and why we're increasing? Have we, if we're making the comparison, have we asked them what they're doing?
Yes. So chronic absenteeism has been a statewide challenge. This is not unique to just us. And I think, I think one of the things that's important to note, and I think that's why Mr. Traverso put up the different slides of our neighbors as well as our demographic reference groups. Demographic reference groups, the data there did not look dramatically different, okay? But when you compare our data, similar to comparing Bridgeport's data to Trumbull, it does look different, suggesting that there's work that we do have to do. There is a research database, including resources that are provided by the State Department of Education, that speaks to best practices that respond to chronic absenteeism. We have employed a host of those strategies, and we will draft that up and share that with you. But we've also engaged in our internal research. We've been talking to family engagement experts. We have other structures within the school system, such as BARC-SARB. We work with JRB here within the community, and we believe that this last strategy of employing specific and exclusively allocated folks to engage in home visits will be able to respond to some of the needs that we have.
And I appreciate all those measures, but whether it be the surrounding towns or the towns in our DERG, we're going up and the rest of these towns are decreasing. Why is that?
There's a correlation, right? And I think it's hard to pin that down, right? And I'm not going to give you a mixed review. I think it's hard to pin that down because it looks different for every child, right? And in the school system our size. But I will provide a counter to that, because while we're making the claim that those school systems are going down, even if it's by just a small amount, and we have increased, I would also counter with that and make the claim, and I have to engage my team in doing some research here, make the claim that no other school system has seen the level of growth that we had just this past year. So that's why I presented this board and our audience with the framing of the what if, right? When we finally get this challenge of chronic absenteeism, right, in the right place, what does that now mean for the outcomes for our students? Now, this level of growth that we're seeing with our students are not just, a measure that you throw up on a slide. In some cases, some of these measures, some of these outcomes for students could be life-changing down the road. So, yes, with the highest level of humility, we're not where we want to be, but we have an entire fleet of people who are working not just at the district level, our principals. These are things that they talk about all the time. I had a team that just sat down with our folks at Straford High today, and we had the same conversation. There are some brilliant minds who are trying to wrestle with this challenge, and we believe with a high level of confidence that things will look different as the year goes forward.
Ms. Welty, I saw your hand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Mrs. Bedell's point, I would just like to remind her as the chair of the policy committee as a very simple start. There was transportation policies that were reviewed with our surrounding towns and with our DERGs. And I would urge you to revisit those policy differences because we are drastically different from our neighbors. If we are to revisit this policy, expand the mileage in which our children can actually access a bus, they will likely get to school. So I would urge the policy committee to please pay very close attention to that and possibly bring it to the board for some revision.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Just in response to that question, I might just make a small suggestion. About a year and a half ago, our committees were set and our committee assignments were set. On the policy committee were two people who see things from diversely different angles. And I believe, I could be wrong, there are only two people on the policy committee.
Yes, sir.
So we have two people who do not agree on anything, and anytime anything goes to policy, the two people on there disagree and it stagnates. So although this board, as it sits, only has a couple months left, perhaps we should populate that committee so we can get something done. Because the most effective way to stop anything is to make it a committee of two and ensure that they disagree on everything and nothing will ever get out of the committee or ever be discussed. So I know Ms. Wiltsey has brought up the comment about policy, but I would blame it on how that committee was set. And please, let's tonight vote on adding some members so we can push some things out of that committee and make it productive. So Ms. Bedell and Ms. Kuby don't feel it's a total waste of their time, because it has not accomplished anything because of the makeup of the board, not because of a desire of the members to get it done.
That's a great suggestion. I don't know that it'll happen tonight, but I think
They got 1 month left.
This is true. All right, any other
It will
questions? Ms.
stagnate more.
Thank you. So first I want to thank Dr. Sunday and the administration for putting together tonight's presentation. I'm sure a lot of hard work went into aggregating all that data and presenting it to help to tell us a story. So we saw what happened, right, in the data, so basically where we are. I believe in one of the presentations, I made a note to ask a question, and then Ms. Fonseca brought up sort of what was behind some of the successes in the math scores, attributing that to math coaches and tutors. My general question is around the why behind what we were looking at. I would have loved to see more of what contributed to, what we're looking at. And I think I may have the wrong year, but there were a couple slides at the elementary level, I believe, where the 5th grades saw a decrease in scores year over year, and then, and then an uptick the following year. So it's kind of, okay, why did that happen? What contributed to that? I saw, what we're going to do about it, but the piece, it's like, what happened? Why did it happen? What are we going to do about it? That why did it happen piece seemed to be missing, at least in my opinion. And I feel like understanding that would have determined what we're going to do about it. And I know that what we're going to do about it is already built into our strategic operating plan, but again, understanding what contributed to these numbers, I feel would have been helpful to me. And I was looking back because some of this data we can find on EdSite, because the state tracked this stuff, and so it's public information. I looked at what our absenteeism, because a question I had was, did chronic absenteeism change once we moved to neighborhood schools, but then I looked at the rate for our district for years prior to that change, and there wasn't a big difference. In fact, some of those years it was higher. The highest we saw were during the COVID years. So again, it's not an unfair question to say, look at how the rate is changing, based on student mileage, right? Like collecting that data, yes, it makes sense. But again, just from a overall more general view, looking at historic data, it didn't seem that that change impacted it. I'd have to go back and look at, when the mileage change was made, how that percentage may have shifted, if at all, right? But again, understanding the contributing factors behind, okay, what's behind absenteeism? Is that, are those areas that we can target with more precision? I think that's the question. It's where are we targeting with more precision versus more generalized approaches. So I'll leave it at that for this. Oh, by the way, Mr. Henrik isn't on the policy committee with Kristen and I, and so I'm not quite sure how he would say, unless this is Kristen's reporting back to him saying we disagree on everything, which I don't believe we do. In fact, going through the policies, like we seem to, the differences aren't necessarily drastic, although I approach it with somewhat of a different lens. We do end up coming to consensus at the end, I believe. So I'm not sure where he's coming from with that. And in fact, the policy committee prior to me asking to join was just one board member, because it's generally led by the superintendent and his or her choice of administrators to support whatever the topic of the policy is, not necessarily increasing the volume. Although, Dr. Sunday, you've had Ms. Temple join at times when we're discussing certain things around equity, so you've always brought in the administrators who specialize in certain areas around whatever policy topic we're addressing at that time.
It's great. I don't want to get too off topic, but I think I applaud the policy committee always in the work that they've done over the past 2 years. Any other questions on the presentation? Great. Seeing none, I thank everybody. That was a most excellent presentation. I would just like to add that my takeaway is, we talk a lot about closing the achievement gap, and it's a lot of talk, and I've never actually seen such clear evidence that it's happening in this district. And to me, that's really exciting to see, the differences closing in. So, if that's a takeaway from that, that's what I'm getting from it. So thank you guys so much for all of your work on the presentation and all of your work throughout the year. Much appreciated. And we'll move on to the administrative, there we go. Moving on to the administrative executive report. Dr. Sunday, you are up again.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet. Again, it's good to be back at the board meeting and having conversations about the things that we need to do to continue to move the district forward. Some clear evidence of that work happening already. We're looking at October already. We're staring October right in the face, so the school year is moving forward pretty well. From a report standpoint, I would just like to inform our stakeholders that the planning committee here has been working and having conversations about the redistricting study that will be conducted by SLAM. One of the instructions that SLAM provided to us was that they wanted us to identify a specific criteria that would inform their work that's customized to our community. As we always do here in Stratford, we want as much community voice. So we have a survey that will put the finishing touches on, and we will get out to stakeholders for input and voice, which will ultimately bring back to the planning committee and then subsequently to the consulting firm that we are working with. Just want to give a quick shout out to all of our schools and the work that they've been doing with open houses. They've been having those, families have been attending, community parties have been attending. Open houses are powerful opportunities to learn a good deal about what students will be learning. Also learn a good deal about the resources that are available to them from a curricular standpoint or a holistic standpoint. We have a few more open houses that will happen this week, but we're going to continue to encourage the families go. It's an excellent opportunity to establish a relationship with your child's teacher, establish a preferred mode of communication, and just build on that as the year moves forward. Happy to announce to this Board of Education that the Alliance grant that was approved last month was, by this board, was subsequently approved by the State Department of Education. We are in full operation mode. I am extremely excited about the Alliance grant because a lot of what you just saw in that presentation behind you were anchored and tethered to some of the innovative practices that emerged in last year's grant. So we're hoping for the same growth outcome, and we're going to continue to support our teachers in the work and the new goals that they'll set for themselves and their students. And then lastly, we'll talk a little bit more about this. The AIP project has been going extremely well. I had a chance to visit there just last week. The place looks completely transformed. We're excited to, we have some of our programs that have already started, and we have a few other programs that we will be transitioning to that facility, that location in the near future. So again, it's good to be back, and we're looking forward to an extremely strong year, and thank you for your continued support.
Spectacular. Any questions for Dr. Sunday?
Yes, Ms. Bedell.
Two things. For next year, if it's possible, can we try to avoid scheduling open houses on the night of the board meeting? There are several that went on tonight, and I know that there are several principals in the audience and staff that wanted to be here but had to be at their school, as well as parents, including myself. And the second is, you mentioned the Alliance grant being approved by the state, and last month we did request a copy of the full document. If you could provide us with a copy of that, that would be great.
Very good.
Thank you. Any questions on this side of the table? I can't see. Ms. Cupid?
Madam Chair, just...
Oh, yeah.
And this is just more of a administrative thing, but I got a phone call this morning asking where our meeting was and what we would be talking about. So I went online about 8 o'clock this morning, went on my phone, went on to the Board of Ed website. There was a notice that we had a meeting. It was at 6:30. I went into the meeting schedule. It said all meetings will be at the administrative session center unless posted. And then there was a link, there was a line for agenda, but no link. And thought maybe it was my phone, checked at home. It didn't get posted till 12 o'clock. I don't know if we have some mandatory requirements to post that agenda or where it might be posted, but on the website for people who might want to come, it wasn't until 12 o'clock, and it was only if they clicked on the agenda link that at the top it noticed where the meeting was, but it called out that there was a meeting, but not where it was, and again, the agenda wasn't available until at least noon, so just for the public's, use and perception and user-friendliness, if we can...
Point taken. Just also as another resource, I know it was definitely posted because it was on the town meeting website. So if you go to the town website, it lists all the meetings happening in town. You're right about the board website, but you could get the agenda was on the town website before noon today.
Yeah, but most people who were looking for a Board of Ed,
you bet.
go to the Board of Ed website.
You bet.
So, anyway,
Great,
just
thank
a
you.
thought.
Any other questions or comments for Dr. Sunday down there, Ms. Cupid? I can't see you if your hand.
Oh, I'm good.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to Ms. Mangini and her Chief Operating Officer's report. So quiet down there.
Good evening again, and following Dr. Osenday's lead, I know a lot of information has been provided to you this evening, so short and sweet. On a positive note, I'm really happy to share that we've identified some additional monies through the ARP ESSER grant that has allowed us to increase funding for our after-school enrichment programs this year at all our schools. And we sincerely hope to increase the number of clubs that are offered this year, as well as hopefully increasing the number of students that participate. And I just also wanted to tell you the great news of, yes, it is time to start the fiscal year 25 budget process. We really do know how to have fun. But honestly, we have been working on developing the draft calendar and the guidelines that we want to be very specific about this year, because we know it will be a little bit more challenging of a year than we've had in the past. So we will certainly share all of that with the board next month with some additional information on some expenses that we are seeing come down the line. So that's my report for this evening.
Great. Any questions for Ms. Mangini? Super. Thank you so much. And lastly, we'll move on to Dr. Daniels and the Teaching and Learning Report.
Good evening, everyone. Again, another short report just to update you on a few goals that are happening within the Teaching and Learning Office. So we are off in full swing with our testing, universal screener testing with the NWEA MAP growth. We are beginning to see the results of those assessments, and teachers and administrators are beginning to plan with how they will be utilizing that data, whether it is for enrichment or it is for development of interventions through our MTSS process. So we are excited about that, and schools are going to be positioned by mid-October to share that outcome of the assessments with our families as well. In addition, we are currently planning for the November 7th PD. The PDEC committee and the curriculum supervisors and I, we've all met to talk about some of the things that we believe are important for our professional staff to learn about, to develop and implement their practice using assessment data to provide feedback to students. And so our focus this year is the awareness and application of the use of data. And so it's our expectation that we will have multiple sessions and an opportunity for folks to choose their sessions to join in and develop practice. This will be November 7th. That is our PD date, and we also are soliciting feedback and proposals from teachers as well. The other piece is, I mentioned earlier, we're continuing to refine curriculum, expanding on the communication and knowledge development of science of reading across our teaching staff, also amongst our administrators, and in addition to our parents as well. We've been dialoguing around what are the best ways to engage our parents with knowledge of the SOR mandate. We also are updating our curriculum and making stride there. And then the last piece is regarding October 12th is our PSAT date. Very important to know. And so we will be sending those letters out, and we have begun also our early planning for SAT testing. So we are excited about that, and we are also going to encourage all of our families to set up their Power School accounts. So you should see information regarding Power School. So you want to make sure that up-to-date information is also being shared at home. And that's all I have.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Dr. Daniels? Yes, Mr. Henry.
So, most of you are aware I am a builder. I belong to the Home Builders Remodelers Association. At our last meeting, the state president had made a comment about a grant program that they put out. I don't know if it's the National Association of Home Builders or the State Home Builders Association, where they provide apprenticeship programs of sorts to school districts. And he had said that their only requirement is that there's a curriculum, and that if the curriculum is there, they will fund the grant to do it. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. I can reach out to them and get more information.
Yeah, if you can share that information. We do have a post-secondary committee that's comprised of Board of Ed representation, students, teachers, administrators, and our supervisor of school counseling. And so we've been meeting with a variety of individuals to talk about the college and career pathway in the military as well, and developing that. So if you share that information, we'll be happy to take it.
Okay, and that would be done at the high school level, that program. Okay. My understanding, but I meant to call earlier. And then I don't know who I would ask, but I know we've made a significant investment in Honey Spot School. Does anybody know the condition of the roof there, and has anybody potentially approached the town? Because I know they've put solar panels on all the school buildings. Does anybody have an assessment of the roof condition? And B, has anybody talked to the town about installing solar panels, since we are, I guess, going to be using that on a more wider range?
To the best of my knowledge, the roof is in serviceable condition. I will connect with the district's facility director to get a little bit more specific information, and then I can subsequently report back to this board.
Thank you. I know I would ask him, but I don't see him here, so. Okay.
Zasik.
And that was it, I believe.
Great. Any other questions for Dr. Daniels? Dr. Daniels, can I ask you how the code of conduct rollout is going?
Oh, wow, it's going really well. We plan to share with you, Heather and I, Ms. Borges and I, a video where our children are actually talking about their lived experience with the code of conduct this year. We've heard nothing but positive things. Our schools effectively rolled out the code of conduct. I want to give credit to our administrative team for actually, taking the data, the feedback that they received to really create something unique for their schools. And so their advisory period, or whether it was just small homeroom moments, they really turnkeyed the code of conduct well. So we do anticipate, Ms. Borges, maybe next week having that video go out and just hear the voices of our children from across the district around how their experience has been with the code of conduct.
Great, it's exciting, and I encourage parents to read over the code of conduct with their own student. I did it with my own, and I found it helpful, so then we're both on the same page about what is expected out of him when he is at school. So thank you for all of that. Wonderful. Any other questions for Dr. Daniels? Did you have anything? Okay. Super. We'll move on to our, thank you, Dr. Daniels. We'll move on to our consent agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from August 28th, 2023, and also to approve the personnel document from this month.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Wiltsey. Second. Second by Ms. Carol Fabian. Any discussion? All right. I love it. Seeing none, roll call vote. Mr. Henrik?
Yes.
Ms. Vidal?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Ms. Wiltsey?
Yes.
Ms. Cupey?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, passes 7-0. We'll move on to items for action discussion. We have one budget transfer this evening. I will entertain a motion to approve budget transfer number 1, which was forwarded to us with a favorable recommendation from the Finance Committee. This is savings from students returning from outplacements used to cover paraprofessional and tutor needs. Related benefits are also included in this transfer. The total budget transfer amount is $302,750.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Bedell.
Second.
Second by Ms. Wiltsey. Any discussion? Ms. Mangini, would you just give us a brief recap?
Certainly. This is a request to repurpose funds that were identified as savings from students returning from outplacements to provide the supports we need within the school for paraprofessionals and tutors.
Great, thank you. Any further discussion?
Sure. Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
So I know you had mentioned that it's from students returning. And I don't know if it's all the same one, but it's tuition non-public and tuition Connecticut. Are those both students returning, or?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
One category is for the actual Connecticut schools, and the other, for Connecticut state schools, and such as ACES, and the other is for private institutions.
And can you just give us just for those who weren't here or watching and didn't see, just the what it's going to be transferred to?
You have it in front of you, may I borrow it? Thank you. It's going to be transferred to CIA salaries, as we said, paraprofessionals, supportive education service, which is the account for tutors, and then the corresponding benefits of health insurance, FICA, and the defined contribution plan. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any further discussion? Yes.
So those were positions that were used to educate the kids that were brought back, or was that additional expenses just in those general accounts?
It was actually both.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll have a roll call vote. Ms. Cupey?
Yes.
Ms. Wiltsey?
Yes.
Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Henrik?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, passes 7-0. We'll move on to item number 2. I will entertain a motion to approve the tuition rates for school year 23-24.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Wiltsey.
Second.
Second by Ms. Carol Fabian. I'm not sure who to direct this to. Can somebody give us a little primer on this, please? Dr. Sanderian.
Ms. Mancini?
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Ms. Sorry.
Thank you.
The tuitions are presented to you annually. They're based on a best practice calculation that most school districts in the state utilize, as it's explained above. And obviously, each year it's going to fluctuate based on our increased costs. We do follow the practice of not including all expenses that are through the general operating budget, but not expenses that are outside of the general operating budget to come up with a fair tuition rate.
Great, and this is different than our per pupil expenditure, yes?
Absolutely.
Okay, and do you know how many students we have in our district paying tuition?
This year, I am not sure if we have any. I will get back to you and confirm that, and we had 2 last year.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other discussion on this?
Just one quick question, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
So the middle school is about a couple $1,000s more. Is there a reason for that?
It's basically just on the average daily membership shift. And also it could be that we may have more veteran teachers, so we are taking the costs associated with the middle schools.
So salary is included in the overall cost?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Great, any other discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Hendrick?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Ms. Wiltsey?
Yes.
Ms. Cupie?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, passes 7-0. Move on to number 3. I will entertain a motion to approve the Chapel Street Elementary School Solar Project Plan.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Carol
Second.
Fabian, second by Ms. Cupie. Can we have a little recap on this? I know Mr. Ruggiero is in here.
Mr. Ruggiero is not here, but we do have a representative. I would like to invite you to come up
You are.
and perhaps respond to some questions from the Board of Education.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
You waited so long for us, thank you.
No problem.
All right, do we have any questions for our rep that's here? Yes, Mr. Hendrick.
So I'm not 100% sure what we're approving this evening. I was under the perception that all of our school solar projects were completed. Is this a whole new project? Is it a tail on? Is it a...
No, so Eric with CSW Energy. So they're not all completed. There was for the next round of schools, there was a re-roof portion of these projects, which was delayed and caused these solar projects to be delayed. Now that their re-roofs are done, we'll be able to start them. So we still have Chapel and High School to be completed. Second Hill Lane, the construction is complete, and we are just waiting for the utility to approve to turn it on. Worcester Street is being installed currently. Bunnell and Straford Academy are completely producing power and finished.
So the Straford High solar project was not part of the original build. It's a new school. I don't know if you're aware.
Yeah, no, so it's a separate, it was done in 2 different phases. So the first 5 schools outside of that, which were the re-roofs, those were one package with one contractor, and then now the high school is its own project, and this is basically just for the plans so we can get started.
And so what are we approving this evening?
So I submitted the plans. This is part of the DAS grant money. It needs to be approved by the Board of Education. So it's basically, I don't know if we've done this in other schools. I know that the previous ones have gone through this process, and it's really just approving the plans so we can get financing from the grant money.
So are we voting to approve the plan or to accept the grant?
No, grant's already been approved. This is just to basically approve the plans.
Okay. All right. I'll assume the town and everybody's reviewed this and is on board with it.
Great, any other questions? Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
We appreciate your time. Seeing no further discussion, we'll have...
I learned a lot today.
What's that?
I said I learned a lot. I've never been to
That's
Board of
right.
Education meeting, so.
Municipal government's important, all right.
In your thought process, you'll never do this again?
I'll be back here for the next meeting because we have other things to approve.
It'll be short. All right, thank you so much. We'll have a roll call vote on this. Ms. Cupie?
Yes.
Ms. Wiltsey?
Yes.
Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Hendrick?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 7-0, passes. We'll move on to item number 4, which is the next project, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the Straford High School solar project plan.
So moved.
Oh, goodness. So moved by Mrs. Wiltie, second by Ms. Carol Fabian. Do we have any discussion, any further questions?
So I'll just go under the assumption that it's identical to the other one, and no need to ask any further questions.
Great, yeah, and we did have the plans included in our packet, and thank you so much again. Any further discussion on this? Great, seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Henrik?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Ms. Wiltie?
Yes.
Ms. Cupie? Yes. Great, and the motion passes 7-0. Thank you all. We'll move on to tabled items. I will entertain a motion to take anything off the table.
Madam Chair, make a motion to take residency off the table.
Okay, made by Mr. Henrik. Second by Ms. Bedell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Great.
Just
Residency
quick
off.
question, do we have any current, I guess, complaints, residency filings on our records, or where are we at with that?
I'm not sure I understand the question, complaints or?
Referrals.
Referrals. We do, and so far since the start of the school year, we have successfully disenrolled 2 families, and our residency director is conducting other investigations to submitted referrals.
Do you know what number of
We are currently at 7 referrals that are on the docket, and he's simultaneously working on all of those.
And I think the last time we spoke, there was one that was being contested. Was that resolved?
Went to the state. I was there. Our legal counsel was there. We are awaiting a decision from the state.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all I had.
Any further discussion on residency? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to clarify, those are not carryovers from last year, right? The 7 families, those are?
It's just within the first month of this school year.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to retable residency.
Motion to table.
Made by Mr. Henrik, second by Ms. Bedell. All in favor? Aye. Residency is back on the table. We'll move on to committee assignments and reports. The curriculum committee met September 12th. Ms. Carol Fabian, anything to? Sure.
Curriculum met September 12th. We discussed and went over the into-reading implementation plan, as well as discussed the continuation of the district's participation in the Department of Education Science and Reading cohort. Just wanted to clarify for everyone that the recent changes to our reading curriculum, these changes were not a unilateral decision made by our district, but were mandated by the state's Right to Read bill. All districts, including ours, were required to choose from the approved 7 programs. It's important to understand that no single program will be a perfect fit for every child. Our goal is not just to improve test scores, but also to instill a genuine love of reading in our students. To achieve this, we must continue to educate our staff and students about the science of reading, enabling us to tailor our approach to each child's unique needs and abilities. We need to keep our focus on fostering a lifelong passion for reading while complying with state's regulations. I just wanted to emphasize that because I know it's been mentioned several times that it's because our reading scores were failing. It is not a Straford thing, it is a state mandate. Also, Dr. Daniels presented an overview of the beginning stages of our curriculum management approach. She and the curriculum leaders have begun working on. This is going to be something that helps all curriculum aligned, as well as make it more accessible to our staff and our families so that they better understand where we're going and the expectations in each area of the curriculum. And our next meeting will be on October 10th.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Any other, Mr. Kennedy, Ms. Cupie, anything to add from curriculum? No? Good to know. Excellent. Okay. We'll move on to Finance Committee, which did meet earlier this evening.
We did. We were presented with some information from Mrs. Mangini with regard to a year-end balance from 22-23. We reviewed that dollar amount and the reasons and the effects behind it. That amount is going back to the town, not into next year's operating budget, just for the public's knowledge. And we, as the Board of Education, look forward to its allocation to hear from the town administrators. We will be meeting again October 24th.
I can't wait. Excellent. School Planning Committee met September 7th. Ms. Cupie?
We did, and Dr. Sunday already provided an update. That meeting was specifically around the presentation from SLAM that we have engaged in doing our boundary study. As Dr. Sunday said earlier, we're looking at kind of setting the parameters of what we want the study to be focused on. There's a survey that was drafted with kind of, the questions that are going to be posed to the stakeholders to help us prioritize the main areas that we want to have SLAM focus on. The committee has also brought up other, questions around things that we discussed last year, such as, would moving the 6th grade to the middle school be a better model? Those things will also be incorporated in the study because, again, we have to keep it really focused and not be too broad, right, to make sure that it is effective. What else? Did I miss anything, Mr. Henrik?
No, I think
that was pretty much it, right? Yeah.
And I encourage, that was a filmed meeting, and it was an important one, so I encourage people to go on the district website if you are so inclined to watch that presentation. It was very interesting. Thank you. Liaison was canceled this month, it looks like. And policy review will be meeting soon, I know. That was some discussion about the day. Athletic review, you're meeting this month? Oh, yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Regarding policy, so we did not meet on September 18th. That was one of our scheduled, planned days that if we had anything to review. But Dr. Sunday has been working with CABE to do an audit of our policies, and they're still in the process of doing that. My understanding from the update we received is that there are 2 policies within the 300 bucket, which are business and non-instructional, that category, that are currently needing updating, and Ms. Mangini is working on those drafts, so those will be coming to us for review and any additional changes before making it to the board. I also, since we're on this topic, want to say, I have requested, to maybe get what those policy numbers are so I can start reviewing in advance the current versions, just to be more efficient of our time so that once we get the new draft, it's easier to, I haven't received those just yet, but again, keep in mind the policy committee is not just run by the 2 board members, it's actually led more by the superintendent and, around his schedule. So I've requested in the past to have meetings and haven't been able to get to it, again, because, there are other priorities, right? So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Kennedy, your athletic review committee will be meeting next month, yes? Good, excellent. We'll move on to other committees. Ms. QB, do you have any CABE updates for us?
Sure, I'll keep it brief. There was a board of directors meeting earlier this month, and the Commissioner of Education was in attendance. A few things that came out, again, she's prioritizing transparency, so now they have created a dashboard on the state website that will track and report out on grants being administered. So again, more visibility into how much, grants have been allocated, how they're being used. They're hiring more mental health professionals. The legislator did provide the state Department of Education with about $24 million to fund that. So hopefully, we can see the benefit of that. They're working on evaluating and launching curriculum frameworks and model curricula for a variety of subjects. So again, that's going to come down to us eventually. And they're working on expanding career pathways and workforce development for students, and continued work to recruit and retain educators, as well as the teacher evaluation guidelines. Those are being finalized. And also on September 14th, CABE did hold one of its monthly policy roundtable to review policy changes that are, basically prompted by the new legislations. Including, which I don't have the full list right here, but like HVAC inspection, dual instructions, being allowed for as part of remote learning, when we need to implement IEP or 504 plans. BOEs can also hire, people who don't have the substitute teacher authorization. We can hire them as substitutes, but only up to 60 days. So those, again, trying to help build capacity because, you know, it's so hard to fill certain roles. And that's all I have right now.
That's pretty amazing. All right, thank you. I attended the CES meeting on September 7th. It was, as always, wonderful. They presented their Teacher of the Year with their designation, as well as Para-Educator of the Year, which was exciting. They also had some discussion, which I thought was interesting for us. I believe that one of the new mandates that came down from Hartford was surrounding exit interviews. But at CES, they're working on developing something they're calling stay interviews. So instead of asking people why they're leaving, it's more what's keeping you in the district. So I hope that that's something, you know, as they develop it, that maybe we can bring in here, because I think that's a great idea. And I even wrote it in my notes, guys. Town of Straford building needs, Mr. Henry?
There are no updates.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And any other committees that I missed?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
So we used to have, I think, the naming committee.
Yes, the renaming committee, I was talking with Ms. Lykudas, and we're working on a meeting in early October. The summer obviously was a difficult time to meet, so.
I mean, I do know that, I think it was Mr. Harding has been Mr. Harden has been presenting this for 3 years now, and it seems to be a very long-winded process. I don't know, hopefully we can get it done before we switch boards and have to start all over.
That's right, that's the hope. Ms. Lykudas and I were just discussing this the other day, so.
He has been very patient, and
He has.
I don't think he should have had to wait this long to get some kind of resolution. Yes or no?
That's right, it's going to be exciting. So I will keep you up to date on that. We'll move on to general good and welfare.
Madam Chair?
Yes?
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Just jumped on you. I just wanted to make a statement before we close for the night that I believe that while there's great committee work that's happening and amazing reports from so many, each month I feel discouraged that we repeatedly hear that they didn't meet. And I think that committee work is imperative. It's where the real, you know, action hits the road. It's where the good stuff comes, and up here is just where we review it and approve it. So I would just like to strongly encourage committee chairs to get your meetings scheduled, and committee members who have been selected to be on them to please attend. Otherwise, the work, as Mr. Henrik just states, stalls. So that's all I just wanted to add for welfare.
Wise words, thank you, ma'am. I would like to add something exciting that's coming up on October 10th. Unless you are registered for this particular summit, you can't go, but just know that it's happening. It's the National Family Engagement Summit. And Parent C, which I hope that everybody in this room is familiar with, will be featured in one of the panels that's entitled One District's Decade of Parent Leadership and Education, Achievement, Lessons Learned, and Next Steps. I know a lot of faces in this room were interviewed. Dr. Sunday will be there, I will be there, Ms. Bedell was interviewed. So it's going to be a pretty exciting event, focusing the nation's eyes on our amazing dedication to parent leadership in Straford. And I think we are the longest running Parent C town. So it's very exciting stuff. So know that that's what I have. Anybody else have any general good and welfare? Yes, ma'am.
There was an article in the paper about Bunnell High School student athlete David Sanchez being nominated for USA Football's Heart of a Giant Award presented by the Hospital for Special Surgery and the New York Giants. So I just wanted to say congratulations.
That's amazing. Anything else? All right. Seeing nothing further, I will entertain a motion to adjourn at 9:39 p.m. So moved. So moved by everybody. So moved by Ms. Bedell, second by Mrs. Wiltie. All in favor? Aye. Thank you all. Have a good night.